Hello. Tonight I want to show you the guts or the content or the board or the intestines of the Phantom 3. This is a 4K drone, and there are slight differences between the Phantom 2 and Phantom 3. So people who post things on the forums, on the internet, sometimes they refer to Phantom 2 when it's about the video feed, the frequencies, how signals go, and how many antennas and all that stuff. So I don't know anything about Phantom 2. This is a Phantom 3, and I can tell that the video signal from the camera in this one I have this is my second one, the spare one. I removed the camera and the gimbal. The signals are digital, so there are two antennas that connect to the board. So when you take this board out, let's say you want to replace the board, you don't know what's this thing, you just need to be aware of the some connectors, how to take the connectors out. Some connectors have a locking mechanism. So the day I had the experience to meet someone who, even that guy knows wires very well, pulled a couple of wires and broke two connectors. So some people, even they know, what, I'm not supposed to do this and that, or I'm supposed to be gentle. They cannot control their body energy and emotions, and sometimes they break things. Or some people, they don't have the touch feel. They call it, they don't have a correct, like they don't have the hand to sense when you over tight. So not everyone use torque wrenches and stuff, tools to adjust the tightness of the screws, but sometimes you break, destroy threads and stuff, especially when you screw into plastic and into deal with aluminum alloy. So you need to have some sort of a feel. You don't keep these things loose, because due to the vibration you start losing screws. That's why now I want to show you the screws have thread lock. So screws that go into the motor have thread lock. Screws that go into the plastic are plastic screws. So if I look at this one, if I see white plastic powder, what it tells you? It tells you that it was undone few times and someone opened this drone and stripped a bit of plastic. So it's not too bad. Sometimes you see like a coils of plastic. It tells you that the hole is stripped, so you need to redo that, otherwise. So this one has another locking mechanism, so it won't come out. But otherwise, sometimes you, due to the vibration, you start losing screws or something, and that's high-speed propeller, and that's high speed, like a high frequency vibration. So this one has a number of locking tabs. I'll show you this one, so you know when you take the cover out, you know what to do, right? So you will need to squeeze this thing at the bottom. So if you squeeze it at the top, you will lock it even more. So it will not help you to unlock these plastic tabs and remove the top, the cover, the lid. So what you do first, you remove, in this case are propeller guards adapters, which have longer screws. But in a regular drone without the propeller adapters, just a regular length screws, and you need to use a Torx. You may be able to use an Allen key, but this is Torx. No, actually this is Allen key on these ones. I'm sorry for misleading. This is Allen key as well. I dealt with Torx today. Yeah, these are Torx. So make sure you don't mix up the stuff. Yeah, so there are a couple of Torx ones, there are Allen key ones, so you have to have a maybe hobby tool set, like a screwdriver set or something like that. And if you have to replace the board, then just be aware of the glue that prevent the cable from breaking right here at the solder point. So this is the reason they use this glue. It's a soft, flexible glue. We have some stuff in the shop that when it dries, it's still semi flexible. Again, so you can put your fingernail in and you feel. So it meant to take some of the stress. When the motor vibrates, the arm vibrates because it's plastic. The cable tend to take some of the strain, and after a while, after vibration, you will see cable frayed here. So that's the reason they put this one that takes some of the vibration, prevents the wire to break here. So make sure after you solder back the motors, let's say you replace the motor, you use some of this special glue. The regular clear silicone is acidic, and it will cause corrosion here. So it's up to you if you want to use some of that silicone from Home Depot or one of those hardware stores. It's up to you, but I do recommend to use some sort of rubber based or something that is specifically designed for electrical and electronic circuits, which is not conductive and not corrosive. And so again, also you see this type of glue is being used to secure the coaxial cable and the connector. So you need to replace that. You can peel it out and put a dab of a new glue. And also watch out for the locking mechanism of this connector. You see when I squeeze, it will unlock from here. There's a locking tab inside of the connector. And also this one requires a little bit higher power soldering iron. Okay, so of course when it says G and D, that's ground, and it's going to the negative. So if you put it reverse, you will blow some stuff. I added some extra silicone coating or something like that, conformal coating. I added a little bit more because I plan to fly in the rain, or not heavy rain, but little bit of fog and rain. I do plan to fly this one somewhere outside in the mountains, just to see how it behaves. This is my experimental drone, so I don't mind to crash it. And also I was curious to see the size of the LEDs. This is a multicolor or RGB LEDs, and I was curious to see what type of light I can get if they are higher power, but they are actually low power. So today project is to install an LED bulb, which I think is like a 3 watts, 5 watts or something, COB LEDs. And I'm going to solder 2 liter wires straight to the battery. And I might install a switch, but I just want to leave 2 bare wires hanging here. And maybe later I'll add a switch or something, or a transistor and a flashing circuit. Maybe I will use one of these things here. See what I can do with the 2 wires. Maybe convert the 15 volts from the drone battery into something that will give me some flashing light here. This is a cool white. and see how it goes, how far I can see it. If I can see it 600 meters away horizontally, I'm happy. So that's the board. If you want to do what I did, avoid like a spray with some coating, which you should not do that. Be aware of the connectors, so you may need to plug in several times before you go flying, because it might mess up with your first flight. Then you want to blame someone on the internet from giving you stupid advices. And I also coated this one. This one is acting like a heatsink. Also watch for this. This is a switch, the linking switch, that you make sure you don't lose that piece of plastic. It's they call it light pipe. In my field of work, they call it light pipe, because it acts as a button in this case, but most of the time it's just for a light from the LED to be seen outside the housing. And this is the card that stores your flight information. So if you do something stupid, let's say you have a drone, they can find it not only by the registration number. Here in Canada, you must register it, and so that's easy to find. But let's say if you bought a drone of someone and you forgot to register, or you didn't, and you fly it, this is the SIM card, the SD card that contain the data, your previous flights, including the GPS location. So someone will find it. Let's say you crash into something, it will take it to some place, and this contain all your previous flights, right? So it's not only flights, some other stuff, but just be aware where you fly if you get into some airspace or stuff, because you can get in trouble with this information from here, plus the information that you willingly upload to DJI web server or a website or server, whatever. Now this is a little sensor that measures the barometric pressure. It's a barometric sensor, so don't spray into this one, because once you cover the two little holes, that is messed up. So it will not measure the pressure, the atmospheric pressure. So make sure you don't spray anything around that area, and that one should stay clear, because it helps you maintain the almost constant altitude. It's not only using the GPS, which is in the cover, in the top lead. So the GPS antenna and chip is here, which connects to the board right here. You see it says GPS. So that will give you some vertical accuracy, but the better precision, like vertical based on altitude, and also when you use ATI mode, when you don't have enough GPS signal, it uses this signal from the barometric pressure sensor. So don't spray anything on that, don't get water into it, because like I said, then if you lose the GPS signals to control your location and altitude, then if that one is busted, then this one will drift, will do something like will not control its altitude. And these are the transistors that are part of the speed controllers. So you have 4 speed controllers that are built into the board and are controlled through firmware and some software built in, and the CPU. And this is a radio board, and there is another radio board into this one under the vision whatever sensor here, ultrasonic and camera and vision position and sensor. So under that board there is a a board with some heat sinks, so it's higher power, broadcasting for Wi-Fi for the camera. So camera is broadcasting through Wi-Fi link. It's a 2.4 gigahertz link, and it gives you a pretty good range. I would say over 1 kilometer of range with that little radio. So that's kind of the basics of the drone. There's not much else to see. So check your motors, make sure all 4 motors spin exactly the same. So if you feel that one spins lighter, easier, and one encounters some resistance, then the flight controller is going to try to compensate. But the thing is, if one motor spins a little bit harder, takes some effort, maybe you got some dirt inside here. So got dirt, so you put the propeller here, and if you got dirt, it gets inside, and it gets between the magnets and the rotor. Actually, the rotor are the magnets, but in this case, let's call it stator, the one that's the one with coil that stays, does not move. So this special motors, what it rotates is the magnet, and when you get some dirt there, like some sand, you will feel some grinding, kind of a grinding, and you will hear some noises like when you start eating sand. Is the same type of sound. You break the sand particles into smaller pieces, and it might not be too bad, but depends what you get in here. If you get some metallic parts or metal shavings and stuff, then it makes it harder. But another thing is, it overheats the transistors, and it could overheat the motors when you put too much effort. So if some junk got stuck in here, then it's not good for the motor, not good for this one, and it might overheat the motor. Overheating it might affect the bearings here, and if they overheat, what happens will push out the oil in the bearings, and that causes premature damage, right? So and it's not a good idea to rely on the flight controller to correct, because let's say if the flight controller has to correct for the wind, and now the aircraft has to fly sideways to push against the wind. I've seen it. I've seen mine. 40 something kilometer an hour wind. It was almost 45 degrees. So 2 motors have to work harder than the other 2. But if you have one motor that is failing or is getting hot, then it makes it even harder. So the speed controller, the transistor get hotter if they can make it, and if it's hot outside, then it's not really good cooling system. Yeah, so that's kind of a basic. So try to maintain all the motors free of junk, and they all make sure they are all spinning at the same type of with the same force, let's say, when you try. And when you put this one back together, make sure you pop all this locking mechanism. So when you take it out, you squeeze it at the bottom, right? So you squeeze and pull, right? After you took all the screws out. So that's the way you took this one out. You may have to kind of twist a little bit. Well, you take one out, one locking tab out, and you may have to pull it this way or this way somehow. So you imagine that if this one is here, you need to pull it this way, right? Then up. So if you break one of these landing gear legs, now the screw is at the bottom. It's obvious, yes. So you see the screws, take the screw out, but you need to access the unless you did not break the antennas. If you broke the antenna, then you have to take the lead out to disconnect the antennas. But if you just broke the plastic, and if you get the brand new ones without the antennas inside, then it's easy, you know, just pop these tabs, the covers out, and we'll leave the wires hanging and put the new landing gear back in, the 4 screws, the 2 screws here, 2 screws the other side, and put the cables in the channel and lock it. Make sure you don't pinch, because it's very easy to pinch the cable, especially around the compass. So around the compass there is kind of a trick how to run the cables without pinching. If you see that it doesn't go, don't force it, because you will cut the cable. I saw pinching here on one of the flat cables. Probably the previous owner or something crashed it, and the board pinched this cable into the housing somehow. I don't know how it happened, but I did not see any sign of crash, or I have no idea. But I put just some tape and on the other cables as well. So I put some tape on the USB cable. Actually, that's the power that monitors the battery. On this flat cable, and if you see other cables like this one, you see it already has a ding. It tells you that due to the torsion and twisting of the board and the drone itself, at some point this board, which is very hard material, pushed against this cable, and the edge is sharp. It can do a cut. So what's this connector is battery monitoring, and I don't know what happens if the controller cannot monitor the battery. Probably is going to think, it's like a zero battery, landing, and it's going to land right now, right? So I don't know. I'm just saying, make sure this one is properly connected, and if you use some spray, insert it a few times until you clean the spray, because the spray flies around like vapors and sticks to everything. So in my work I do this type of spraying, and sometimes the connectors don't do the proper job, and I have to take it out, put it back in, try again, put it a few times until that those spray particles are gone. Okay, so this was the DJI Phantom 3, the 4K model, the intestines, the guts, the board, the main board. Okay, so I hope it helps you to dismantle or maybe repair your drone. Okay, talk to you later. Bye bye.